are at each other's throats over some members deciding to object to the Electoral College certification on Wednesday. Joining me now is NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Leanne Caldwell. Leanne, good to see you. What exactly is going to happen tomorrow, or on Wednesday, I should say?
Yeah, Katie. So we're still trying to figure all of this out. The reason is because House Republicans en masse are saying that they are going to object to up to 6 states that are going to, that the Electoral College count is going to happen. And of course, those are the 6 states that the president has been complaining about, but they need a senator to participate in order for this objection to be heard and to be debated. There are up to 12 senators who have said that they are going to perhaps lodge one of these objections. 4 of those senators are brand new freshmen who have just been sworn in as of yesterday. They have not committed yet to objecting. The only person that has is Senator Josh Hawley, who has indicated that Pennsylvania is going to be his state. But it's an interesting play for these freshmen, these incoming senators, Katie, just because they are going against what Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell has been telling his conference for weeks. He does not want this open battle, this loyalty test of the president, pitting members against each other, and that is exactly what is happening. It's also interesting because these freshman members are doing this before committee assignments have been set. And so that is where a lot of power from leadership comes from, is which committees you are placed on. But these freshman members took very bold positions before that is taking place, Katie.
I guess they're weighing what's going to be more useful to them, the support of the president's base or a committee membership. Leanne Caldwell. Leanne, thank you so much. And in a remarkable public letter published in the Washington Post, all 10 living former U.S. defense secretaries cautioned the military against any involvement in Donald Trump's election dispute. And they warned that any effort to involve U.S. armed forces would take the country into, quote, dangerous, unlawful, and unconstitutional territory. Joining me now is former Defense Secretary Chuck Hagel, one of the authors of that letter. Mr. Secretary, thank you so much for joining us. I'd like to just start with this. Why did you and the others feel the need to draft this letter?
Well, I think, Katie, primarily because we have witnessed for almost 4 years the dangerously erratic and irresponsible behavior and actions taken by this president, especially in the last few weeks since the election, when there's been very loose talk about military law, employing the Insurrection Act, overturning the election. January 6th, which you just talked about, is very much part of that. And I think to put an accent on that, the newspapers and television, radio, and news programs over the last 24 hours have been full of the conversation that the president had with the Secretary of State of Georgia that came out yesterday. In that tape recording, that's pretty unnerving. What the president did, he threatened the Secretary of State. So when you total all of that up and you think about the military would be a central player in this, if in fact this president would move to employ the Insurrection Act or to install military rule in this country, it would have to be done through the military. And our op-ed just reminds our military, and they know this, they're responsible, fantastic Americans, that their responsibility is to the Constitution. That's where they swear their oath, not to a president, not to a party. And I'm confident if this would ever come to that, they would do that. But it's just a reminder, and I think it was an important statement and an important reminder to all citizens of this democracy.
Are you talking to the officers and the rank and file, or are you speaking directly to the acting defense secretary, Christopher Miller, who is a political appointee?
Well, that op-ed was intended for everyone. I would actually start with the citizens of this country, so that the citizens of this country are reminded the cornerstone of our democracy is a smooth, lawful transition of power. That's what we've always done. That's what we expect. That's what Americans expect. And for a president to continue to incite and inflame that, question that, and he's done that over the last few months, that does great damage to confidence in our system, in our process, in democracy. So that op-ed was intended for all of Americans, certainly intended for the Pentagon, officers, enlisted men, civilian employees there as well.
You're a former Republican senator. I know you've served.
I agree. And the reason why that I agree is because it puts doubt in people's minds of the authenticity of whether or not this election was legal or not, whether or not this election is authentic or not. And whenever you go to planting seeds of doubt, unbelief, and despair in people's minds and in people's hearts, such as Donald Trump has done with his big microphone, he's got a big mic. They claim at any given time he can talk, and he's basically talking to about 20 million people. That's a pretty big mic. You know, that's like that's like 5 or 6 Memphises at one time, maybe even more. 20 million people at any given time. Because of the uncertain times that we live in, you would think that a president would want to come near of wanting to authenticate various things by making it official than making it non-official, especially whenever it comes to an American election. Because if you plant the seed in somebody's mind that this election was bogus, that this election was painted, stainted, tainted, rigged, whatever, then you leave an opportunity towards people wondering, well, maybe the enemy is within us, and maybe it's time that we did form some sort of a coup in being able to eliminate the illegitimacy. I've always said, and to some extent I still say, that if America was to ever have another uprising similar towards a civil war, the military at first would side with the politicians. But after the military realized that there was more citizens against them than it was for them, I truly believe that the military would conform and unite with the citizens, providing that the citizen statement was a strong enough, long enough, rightful statement. Now, once more, whenever you have somebody like Donald Trump that's come onto the scene, all of a sudden you got people analyzing the difference between right and wrong, authentic, non-authentic. Was it rigged? Was it not rigged? Is it official? Is it not official? And the doubt alone, just the seed of doubt, puts a big question mark upon our democracy, because our democracy has never questioned itself in this regards. And that's the reason why that it takes faith in a democracy in order to have a democracy. It's kind of like having faith in your currency. You know, we got a $20 bill that says $20, it's valued at $20. We got a $5 bill that's valued at $5. We got a $10 bill that's valued at $10. We got a $100 bill that's valued at $100. It takes faith to maintain that order. And whenever you go to questioning whether or not your dollar bill is of the same value of the $100 bill, or vice versa, you have a problem. Because now you're disrupting, listen to me, now you're disrupting that in which what everybody thought was chiseled in stone as it being the cornerstone of our belief. Do you see what this guy is saying? And I don't blame him up in the Pentagon. I would be wanting to say something too about all this, because it has reached a level of uncertainty to the degree that I hope to God the worst case scenario does not occur pertaining to Donald Trump. But because he has been so consistent and so gung-ho in all of this, it may be a small possibility, but it is a possibility that all hell could break loose. That's the reason why they're stepping up to the plate now and basically drafting what they're saying to the general public, because they are concerned. And it deems being concerned about whenever you have this much displacency, this much confusion that Donald Trump has obviously created. To some extent, maybe he's done what he's done ignorantly, not realizing the backlash to all of this. But to another extent, I tend to wonder if this is just exactly what he intended to do towards creating chaos, mayhem, and confusion. Because like I said, whenever you create that seed of doubt, then you're creating something that in and of itself becomes lethal, and in and of itself can become your enemy, because now you have a seed of doubt. You have a seed of unbelief. You have a seed to where people is questioning the authenticity of whether or not it is official or non-official, because maybe it's bogus, or maybe it's this, or maybe it's that. It of itself is a very, very dangerous position for any major policy to have. And it's the same thing in not having faith. You know, I'm going to use this for a quick illustration. How many people fly or have flied in today's society? I'm going to say probably a fourth of society has been on some sort of plane in their lifetime, flying somewhere. Maybe not quite a fourth. Maybe a little more than an eighth, not quite as much as a fourth. But there's a lot of people that has flown an airplane. If you have somebody telling you before you get on board of the airplane, screaming and hollering and yelling, "Don't get on this airplane, don't get on this airplane, this airplane's unsafe, this airplane's unsafe." I know for a fact that this airplane's unsafe. We've had premonitions that this airplane's going to wreck, and there's going to be 300 or 400 people that are going to die because of this airplane not going to fly right. We don't get on this airplane. If you have somebody screaming and yelling to you that before you get on the airplane, you're going to sit and debate on whether or not you truly should get on this airplane or not. Because now you have somebody screaming and yelling at you, telling you that the airplane is going to wreck. Same way with a boat. You're not going to get on a big boat and taking some sort of a cruise if you have any doubt in your mind that from the time you leave port, from the time you come back, that everything is going to be safe and hunky-dory. If you thought for 1 second that something was going to disrupt, regardless whether it was a pandemic, a disease, or an accident towards hitting an iceberg, or maybe something else going to blow up or burn up or whatever, you probably wouldn't get on the vessel. Because now you planted a seed of doubt. You planted a seed of concern. That's what this guy's talking about here. we're in uncharted territory on every level that we can think of right now in the year 2021. Just now going through and over the Jubilee year into what we're facing off now, towards the dangers that people are starting to pay attention to today that they wasn't paying attention to a year ago. The dangers was still there. The corruption was still there. The unintended consequences was still there. But people didn't think about them near as much because the show was running. People was hopping on board. Things was going hunky-dory. Well, now things ain't going hunky-dory. And people's having time to think. That's exactly what this guy's talking about right here. Anytime you plant the seed of doubt or this much concern, this in and of itself can become a property of an enemy of itself. I mean, if you don't have people that believe in the product that you're selling, obviously you're not going to sell it. If you don't have people that believe that your flight is going to be safe and secure, you're not going to have people that's going to schedule towards wanting to go on a flying expedition with you. If you don't believe that the boat is going to stay afloat and something horrible is going to happen, odds are you're probably not going to have people getting on your vessel. You see what I'm saying? This is what Donald Trump has created. This isn't what the Biden administration has created. This is what Donald Trump has created because he keeps questioning our examiners, regardless whether it's the Georgia examiners, regardless whether it's the Michigan examiners, regardless whether it's the Pennsylvania examiners, regardless whether it's the Arizona examiners, or whoever. He keeps questioning the examiners. The examiners are the ones that gives the green light towards whether or not this is authentic or this is not authentic. You follow what I'm saying? And whenever you go to questioning the examiners, you're basically questioning the system. Whenever you got somebody like Donald Trump that has this kind of influence towards questioning the system, then you got a problem. Now, little bitty old rinky-dink me out here in the middle of the sticks. I'm in the middle of basically nowhere. I have said all along that the system was broken. And it's not just broken in one particular area, but it's broken in multiple areas, okay? Guess what? When something is broken, you repair it. You fix it. That's what you do with a broken arm. That's what you do with a broken leg. That's what you do with a broken chair leg. That's what you do with a broken automobile. You fix it. You don't create chaos by advertising it. You get involved towards pulling your sleeves up, towards trying to repair the problem that obviously is broken. That's what you do with anything that is broken. A broken heart, a broken mind, a broken chair leg, a broken system. It all stands to reason that it's not what you say, but how you're going about saying it that can, in fact, create total chaos. I'm going to repeat that one more time in case you didn't understand it. It is not so much what you say, but how you say it. that if you're the wrong person saying the wrong thing, you can literally create chaos because you didn't explain it properly. See where we're going with this? Towards this seed of doubt? Towards this seed of unconcern? Everything that's going on right now pertaining to people's checks, people losing their jobs, people losing their 401ks, people losing their insurance, people possibly going to wind up becoming homeless. I mean, you have a perfect storm here that creates a formula of catastrophe. And then whenever you have somebody like Donald Trump that's adding more insult to misery, it just creates that much more of the mayhem that could escalate from all of this. Everybody just needs to take a big, big, deep breath and say, where are we at? What are we going to do? And how are we going to fix it? How are we going to get out of this bind that we're in right now? You know, I was just thinking this morning about all of this. And I was thinking, how foolish can it be whenever you have a society that sat back and watched 3,000 people die in a period of about 2 hours, pertaining to the Twin Towers being attacked and the Pentagon being attacked and the people that was on the other airline. You had basically 3,000 people that died in one day, right in front of your very eyes. You got people that are willing to fight themselves and attack themselves versus going after the original people that caused that type of havoc to begin with and that type of concern. I don't get it. If you're going to fight, you need to fight the real enemy. You need to fight who started the panic, who started things on a bad note or started things on a downhill slide. You don't attack yourselves. You don't fight amongst yourselves because of the chaos that's been created. You go back to the original core of origin and you figure out, well, what exactly upset the apple cart? Well, in my analogy, ever since 9/11 has occurred, everything has basically went south. It's fallen apart. It's went to hell in a handbasket, as Mr. Bush, old man, Senior Bush, announced to the general public. I believe it was in 1990, or maybe shortly after Jimmy Swaggart got caught with a prostitute, that America was going to hell in a handbasket. Whenever you figure out the origin, the point of origin, where all this began, how it began, where it began, when it began, then you're looking towards solving the problem. It's the same way with dissecting the problem in a motor engine on your automobile or an airplane or a boat. If the motor's not running properly, figure out what's going on with the motor to cause it not to run properly. Odds are it may be just one component, or it may be one piston or one valve or one of this or one of that. Now, it may be to the extent that instead of repairing just the one, go ahead and repair all while you're in there to do the repair. But the bottom line is, odds are whenever something tears up, there's usually one derivative, one component that has caused this problem. It's called the point of origin, the core of origin. The core of origin that has upset the apple cart here in America, the way that I can understand it, since 9/11 has been basically 20 years. We're coming up on the 20th year anniversary of 9/11. And as far as I am concerned, in comparison to the first 20 years before 9/11 versus the last 20 years beyond 9/11, I would say that 9/11 would be one of those tipping points where you could almost use it as a ruler towards a defining moment in history, that after that happened, this happened. After this happened, that happened. My belief isn't just with 9/11, but my belief is that the weather patterns started changing dramatically since 1983, since I felt the two hands miraculously come out of heaven that saved my life after a 1979 Buick Regal tried to kill me, working through the powers of the devil. Since then, we've seen the weather go bonkers. But then you have to start looking at other major events pertaining to other factors that was big factors that played off on history, not just here in America, but throughout the world. And if you'll go back into the 80s, whenever Ronald Reagan was president, and you'll start looking at big things that occurred, regardless whether it was the major earthquake that caused over 500 million people that died, or regardless whether it was Oklahoma bombing or the Waco incident or other major incidences that happened in the world, if you'll look at history, you'll see where everything has developed since a certain time period for the bad, not for the good, but for the bad. So that's where you go back to the point of origin towards saying, okay, what is going on here? What has happened here? It's like putting a puzzle together. You're putting the dots together. And as you're putting the dots together, it actually speaks for itself. And then this is the way a good investigator or a detective usually solves a crime, is that they take a little of this and a little of that, and they put this together and put that together, a little information over here, a little information over there. And the next thing you know, now they got a big picture of what actually occurred.
Both Republicans and Democrats. But I just want to ask you what you make of the partial defense that I was given a moment ago by Ken Buck of Colorado, representative. He's not supporting this challenge to the Electoral College results, but part of his defense in supporting the president and supporting the president's efforts to investigate all the fraud that doesn't exist is because he says he's been treated unfairly by Democrats. The impeachment was unfair. What do you make of that argument?
Well, politics itself is not necessarily a fair business. Anybody who's been in politics or part of politics has seen unfairness. I'm sorry about that. I wish our system was perfect and we didn't have unfairness, but we have laws and we adhere to laws. The electors from all 50 states met a few weeks ago, and they registered their certification of each of their states. Many of those states in contention, by the way, in question, have Republican governors, have Republican secretaries of state, and they certified the election. The electors did, the ones responsible for doing that.
The examiners.
And that's part of our law. That's how we transfer power peacefully. Now, this folly that the Congress is up to in 3 days is not going to work. It's futile. All it will do is continue to undermine democracy, undermine people's confidence in our system, and again, just prolong this incited fraud charge that the president has continued to make. Actually started making it before the election when he said, the only way I could lose an election is if there's fraud, it's a Democrat stealing. Well, we know that's not true.
Yeah.
The facts are the facts. So I'm sorry, Mr. Buck thinks politics is unfair or particularly unfair to him. I could give you probably a half a dozen unfairnesses that I think have happened to me in politics over the years, but that's just the business. I don't know of anybody who's not been an elected.
But let's look at the psychic to all this, the psychic to it, okay? People today don't really understand or realize how that this occurred. But during the time of Christopher Columbus and other great sailors that sailed the seven seas, a lot of good sailors would not sail the seven seas because of one particular rumor or one particular bad analogy. Does anybody know what that bad analogy was? Sure you do. They believed that the world was flat. And they believed that once you reached a certain point in the ocean, you would drop off and that would be the end of your life. And because they felt like that the ocean was so unsafe and that once you got too far that you couldn't return back, they didn't get out in the waters to begin with. And it wasn't until people started coming back after going around the world is whenever they understood that the world is not flat, the world is round. And of course, once we invented airplanes and satellites and radar and etc., it only helped to enhance what the second gesture was to begin with, that the world is not flat, but rather it is round. So you can't say that a person's psyche won't have a profound effect upon other people's feelings of rather not they're in doubt or rather not they're insecure of that individual based upon what that individual, she or she are saying. It all has an effect upon each thing and each other. Doubt and confusion was the very thing that Jesus chastised his disciples for, more so than anything else throughout the Bible. How many times do you read, "Oh, ye have so little faith"? "Oh, ye have so little faith"? This was God's Son attacking that entity because he knew that that was the entity that was preventing them from moving on. It was the entity that was preventing from them to migrate or escalate into another level. It was the entity that was holding them back because they didn't have the faith. They was in doubt. They was in unbelief. And this in and of itself is an enemy. The enemy of doubt. The enemy of uncertainty. Because it was the very thing that Jesus chastised them for again and again and again. Where is your faith? Oh, ye have so little faith. If you have the faith of the grain of a mustard seed, you can say to thy mountain, be thou removed, and it shall be removed. It's all based around confidence, faith. And when you no longer have the confidence and the faith, then doubt and uncertainty starts creeping in. After uncertainty and doubt, then chaos. We don't need chaos on top of a pandemic, on top of all the other crazy stuff that's been going on since 9/11, in addition to the weather changes that I have visually seen since 1983 at the age of 27. We don't need more of the same thing that is causing the recipe of catastrophe.
Official who gets some of that treatment. But if you believe enough in the system and the law of the land and why you're doing this, then you overlook that. That's just part of it. But in the end, we must maintain law. I mean, that's what keeps us a free people, and that what keeps us a free country, and that's what allows a strong and vibrant democracy.
Secretary Chuck Hagel, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate all of your time, sir. And still ahead, we were warned But in some cities, it made no difference. First up, though, we're in Georgia, where the course of Joe Biden's presidency will be decided tomorrow.
I'm going to use one more illustration before I hang up on you. And I give up on trying to convince you of what I'm telling you is, in fact, very, very substantial pertaining to morale. The movie of I'm trying to think of the movie now that had Clint Eastwood in it. The Pale Horse. Remember the scene whenever they was digging in the river, the little stream, and one of the diggers finally found a nugget that was almost the size of his head, that probably weighed every bit of 10 pounds. Up until that guy had found that nugget, those panhandlers was at the point of giving in to the hood and selling their property for a little bit of nothing. Once the panhandlers realized that there was a possibility that there was going to be more gold, that changed that whole picture, that whole facade about how they thought about their property. Why? Because now their faith was enhanced. Their faith was encouraged. Even the hood himself said, right before he killed that guy out in the streets, or had his assassins to kill him, that he had them all whipped until the preacher come. And the preacher brought faith. Because the preacher brought faith, now the hood realized that it was going to be twice as hard to get the same set of panhandlers off the same mountain as what it did before the preacher ever come. So yes, whenever you look at confidence, faith, being assured that something is going to work, it goes a long, long way in people's morale towards what they believe in or what they don't believe in. I would not be handling a dollar bill, a $5 bill, a $10 bill, a $20 bill, a $100 bill if I did not have faith in that system that it was in fact a just system. I wouldn't have faith that the system pertaining to the numbers game was justifiable. So because I think that it's justifiable that a 10 is greater than a 5, a 20 is greater than a 10, and 100 is greater than a 20, because I got faith in the system, I play with the system. I use the system. I use the money currency system that we currently have here in America because I believe that my $100 bill is worth 5 times as much as what a $20 bill is. You see what I'm saying pertaining to faith? Once you lose that faith, once that seed of doubt or uncertainty comes into play, it can be destructive. Thanks again for listening. Good luck for all of us as we're approaching this final session of this presidential election. Good luck to each and every one of us towards where we go in the future from this moment on. Hopefully we can all stand on our own 2 feet and continue to go forward in life where God intends for us to go and where we know that God wants us to go. Thanks again, and shalom. And thank you, MSNBC, for your news.